Tonight, we step back in time, into the dimly lit, mud-soaked world of a medieval village. Here, you are a young woman, on the eve of the most daunting night of your life, your wedding night. Inside a cramped, thatch-roofed cottage, the air is thick with the mingled smells of damp wool and tallow candles. Outside, voices rise and fall across the narrow dirt lanes, the chatter of neighbors who you are certain are whispering about you. You tug uncomfortably at a coarse linen shift, your best garment, though patched at the elbows. This is not the fantasy wedding of modern imagination, this is survival. In medieval Europe, marriage was rarely about love. It was about alliances, about labor, about securing land and family ties. The Catholic Church, by the 13th century, had declared marriage a sacred sacrament, binding two families as much as two people. But for peasants, like you, it was also entertainment. Your wedding night was no private affair. It was a spectacle, one the entire village felt entitled to witness and discuss. The gossip stings. "Lucky girl, marrying the miller's son," one woman mutters. Another laughs bitterly, "Lucky with his temper." Their words cling to you like damp straw. And it isn't just idle talk. Everyone in the village will be watching, not to see romance blossom, but to make sure the contract is fulfilled. Some even whisper about the bedding ceremony, where elders escort the bride and groom to their bed with laughter, jokes, and more intrusion than anyone could ever want. You try to shake the unease as you draw water from the village well. Glancing at your reflection, your face looks older than your years. 16, perhaps 17, but already weighed down by duty. The deal that sealed this marriage was made long before you were ready to understand it. In many villages, betrothals were arranged when children were barely old enough to walk, sometimes even in infancy. Consent was spoken at the altar, yes, but refusal was not an option when survival depended on the union. The miller's son, your soon-to-be husband, is little more than a blurred figure in your memory, his hands dusted with flour, his voice a grunt at the marketplace. Yet tomorrow he will be your life. Not love, not choice, but logistics. Your families have been haggling for weeks over the terms, a dowry of chickens, a patchwork blanket, and a wobbly stool your father carved. To you, it feels less like preparing for marriage than being packaged and bartered. The cottage hums with tension. Your mother's voice drones on about duties and chores, her hands working the comb through your tangled hair with little patience. Your father stomps in from the alehouse, his boots heavy with mud, his face flushed from too much drink and too many arguments with the groom's family. Dowries in these times were not gifts, they were leverage. Cloth, pots, livestock, sometimes land or coin, all meant to sweeten the deal. And for families with little to spare, every item carried enormous weight. You sit quietly, needle in hand, mending the linen you'll wear tomorrow, while your sister sleeps nearby, still too young to carry the burden of betrothal. For her, that day will come soon enough. For you, it is here. The realization presses like a stone on your chest. You are not stepping into a story of romance, but into a contract written long before you had a voice in the matter. Stepping outside, you breathe in the cool night air. Stars pierce the sky above, but the village never quite sleeps. Laughter drifts from the alehouse, a dog barks, a blacksmith's hammer rings out in the distance. The world seems alive, yet for you, tomorrow feels like the end of something, an end to girlhood, to freedom, to choice. You've heard the stories. Brides who wept through their wedding nights, young women who never survived childbirth a year later. You wonder what fate tomorrow has carved for you. Still, somewhere beneath the dread, there is a flicker of something else. Maybe hope, maybe resilience, maybe just the simple instinct to survive, as every peasant must in a world that leaves no room for dreams. Tomorrow, you will walk to the church with the entire village watching, every step measured, every breath judged. Tonight, though, you are still just a girl in a cottage, sitting by the fire's dim glow, wondering how your life became a bargain and how you will carry it forward. Historians still debate whether dowries truly gave women some measure of power, or whether they simply reduced them to bargaining pieces. But in this moment, it doesn't feel like empowerment at all. Your father snaps at you to fold the linens faster, and your hands move automatically over the stack. Each cloth feels less like fabric and more like fragments of your life being traded away. The chickens, they're not just birds. They're the ones you raised, who greeted you every morning since childhood. The blanket isn't just wool. You helped your mother weave it during a winter so bitter your fingers split and bled. None of this is simply stuff. It's survival, and the Miller family knows it. From the table, you hear your father mutter darkly about their demand for an extra bushel of barley. You nearly smirk. Joke number one: if they're this fussy about grain, imagine what they'll say about your cooking. The truth is hard to ignore. The dowry isn't about you at all. It's about power, and you're the prize no one asked if you wanted to be. Your mother presses a small iron pot into your hands, another part of the dowry, and tells you to scrub it clean. You plunge it into icy water, the chill biting at your knuckles, while the village outside stirs awake. A cart creaks by. A sheep bleats. The church bell rings for morning prayers. Every clang reminds you, this isn't just haggling over goods. This is about the fragile balance of the whole village. If your family gives too much, you'll starve when winter comes. If you give too little, the Miller family might walk away, and at 17, unmarried means doomed. A spinster before adulthood, cast adrift in a world where marriage is security. You pause with the dripping pot in your hands and think about the groom. You've seen him at the mill, dusted with flour, but you don't really know him. Is he cruel? Gentle? Does he even want this marriage? Or is he just obeying his father's orders? The dowry makes you feel like a transaction. Joke number two: maybe you should have bargained for a better groom instead of another chicken. Your mother catches the shadow on your face and snaps that you're lucky to marry at all. Plenty of girls would gladly trade places. She's not wrong, but it doesn't ease the knot tightening in your chest. Then your father slams his hand against the table. The Millers want a strip of meadowland, your family's grazing ground for generations. You freeze. This isn't about chickens anymore. That meadow is your family's lifeline. To give it up means hunger in the years ahead. And yet, without it, the marriage may collapse. Tomorrow is the wedding, and still the dowry is unsettled. You set down the pot, your hands trembling. In this medieval market of marriage, love is the last thing anyone thinks about. The morning of the wedding arrives cold and damp. You're holed behind a flimsy screen of woven branches where a tub of lukewarm water waits. Your mother scrubs at you as if you're tarnished metal, her cloth rough, her hands relentless. This is bridal preparation, though there's nothing glamorous about it. No silk robes, no perfumes, just a quick wash to make you presentable to the villagers' judgmental eyes. A quirky superstition says washing a bride's feet ensures fertility, so your mother splashes water over your toes with unsettling enthusiasm. You shiver, your thin shift clinging to your skin, wishing it would all end. She hands you a dress, your cousin's old wedding gown, dyed a faded blue, itchy and stiff with age. It's the best they could manage. You slip it on carefully, then glimpse yourself in a polished copper plate. The reflection doesn't look like you. Joke number one: if this dress is meant to make you glow, it's sending you straight back to bed. Your mother weaves a crown of wildflowers into your hair, insisting it wards off evil. You suspect it's mostly to hide the frayed hem of the gown. Your sister giggles, saying you look like a saint from the church frescoes. You roll your eyes. Joke number two: if saints wore this itchy wool, they'd have started a rebellion long ago. Your mother steps back, appraising you like a merchant examines turnips at market. She slides a pair of tight leather shoes onto your feet, another dowry item grudgingly offered by your father. They pinch, but going barefoot would be an omen too dark to risk. Outside the screen, villagers murmur. A man remarks you're not bad looking, while a woman wonders aloud if you're tough enough. You clench your fists. This isn't your wedding, it's their spectacle, and you're the centerpiece no one asked if you wanted to be.
The church bells toll. Your mother whispers hurried instructions. Keep your head down, don't stumble, don't sass the priest. You nod, only half listening. Still, no sign of the groom. Will he be kind or indifferent? The preparations don't calm your fears, they sharpen them. Joke number 3. Maybe if you scrub hard enough, you can wash the whole wedding away. But there's no escape. You're paraded through the village in the faded blue gown, the flower crown slipping, the shoes digging into your heels. The feast is already roaring ahead. Shouts, laughter, the screech of a fiddle echoing across the fields. Your family scrape together barley stew, roasted turnips, a little ale. For peasants, this is as grand as it gets, a chance to eat something other than stale bread. And for you, it's less celebration than endurance. Your stomach twists as you glance towards the church. This is it, a life decided not by love, but by land, grain, and livestock. The village is watching, waiting, and you, trembling in a borrowed gown, are the bargain sealed with vows.
The feast is more than food and laughter. It is the village flexing its unity, showing the world that even in lean years it can still put on a spectacle. But to you, it feels less like celebration and more like surveillance. Privacy is a luxury you will never know. You hear a man betting a sack of oats on how swiftly you'll fulfill your marital duty tonight, and your grip tightens around the wooden cup in your hand. For one reckless moment you imagine hurling it at his head. Joke number 2, perhaps you should have bargained for a dowry clause that promised at least a sliver of peace and quiet. Your mother's wave pulls you from the thought. She is everywhere at once, a whirlwind of pride and exasperation, making certain the stew never runs dry, shooing idle hands back to work. You, meanwhile, are expected to glide through the crowd, a blushing bride on display. But every step feels like wading through mud. A knot of young men watch you pass. One of them winks, declaring that you're fortunate to be marrying the miller's boy. You manage a smile, though inside you are screaming. At last you catch sight of him, your groom, across the field. He is laughing, tankard in hand, surrounded by his brothers. He looks fine enough, you suppose, but your heart does not leap. It sinks. Before you can linger on the thought, you are swept back into the current of revelers. A greasy slice of pork is pressed into your hand. You chew it without thinking, the fat slick on your fingers, the taste heavy in your mouth. Around you the feast blurs, faces, voices, songs, the shriek of the fiddler now nearly drowned out by drunken chants. And beneath it all, you are counting the hours until you can escape. But escape to what? The church awaits with its ceremony of vows and stern admonitions. After that comes the dreaded bedding ritual, whispered about for weeks with cruel glee. Joke number 3. If the feast is this chaotic, the wedding night may well be a riot. The ale dulls your nerves just enough to keep moving as the crowd begins to funnel toward the church. Your belly is full of pork and sour drink. Your flower crown sits askew, your dress already speckled with stew. The evening air cools as the sun sinks low, shadows stretching across the dirt path. Your mother grips your arm tightly, guiding you like a wayward goat, while your father trails behind, still muttering about the miller's endless demands. The church looms ahead, heavy and unyielding. By the 13th century, marriage had become a sacrament, its rules enforced not only by husbands, but by God's representatives on earth. The priest's role was not simply to bless the union, it was to remind you, in words that curdle milk, of your sacred duties, obedience, chastity, fertility. Generations of children, raised not for your sake, but for the family's survival. A curious detail some chroniclers preserve. Certain priests would sprinkle holy water on the bride's head as though a few droplets could wash away sinful thoughts.
Standing at the church steps, the laughter and lewd jokes of the feast still ringing in your ears, you cannot imagine anything holy about what comes next. Historians may debate whether such rituals sanctified or intimidated, but to you, the answer is clear. The wooden doors creak open, the villagers pour inside, and with your mother tugging at your arm, you are carried toward the threshold, your heart heavy as the stone walls themselves.
You hesitate at the doorway, boots caked with mud scuffing against the church's stone floor. Inside, the air is thick, part incense, part damp stone. At the altar waits the priest, a thin, hollow-eyed man with a beard like tangled brambles. His stare is sharp, as if he's already seen 100 marriages falter and expects yours to be no different. In his hand, a worn prayer book, its pages curled from years of use. You can almost hear his voice before it begins, low, scratchy, droning on about sin and duty. Your mother nudges you forward, whispering for you to keep your eyes down. Joke number 1. If you look up now, you might end up challenging both God and the groom at the same time. You shuffle toward the altar, the buzz of the crowd behind you like flies around a carcass. The priest begins. Latin phrases tumble from his mouth, blurred and endless, but the meaning is clear enough. Marriage isn't freedom. It's a holy cage, locked tight with rules. His words are aimed mostly at the groom, who stands a few feet away, flushed cheeks, wrinkled tunic, reeking faintly of flour and ale. He doesn't look eager, but at least he hasn't bolted for the door. Then the lecture sharpens into threats. No straying, no defiance, and absolutely no skipping mass. You bite your lip to stifle a laugh. Joke number 3. If missing church is a mortal sin, then half the village is already damned. The weight of it presses down. This isn't just a ritual, it's a contract, binding and permanent. They hand you a ring, a plain iron band cold against your finger. It doesn't shine like love, but it gleams like ownership. The priest reminds everyone of Eve's downfall, how women must submit to avoid her fate. You want to roll your eyes, but your mother's glare could cut through iron. Every word from the priest makes it clear. Your body, your labor, your future no longer belong to you. They belong to him. Holy water splashes onto your head, icy as winter rain. You flinch, but the priest drones on. The ceremony stretches, your feet ache in stiff shoes, and the incense makes you light-headed. The groom mutters his vows, barely above a whisper, and you echo them, your own voice smaller still. The priest's closing warning is about the wedding night, a debt you now owe, a duty that cannot be denied. Joke number 3. If marriage is a debt, you'd rather owe the miller a wagon of grain. The words are sealed, the crowd erupts in cheers. You step outside at last, the evening air cool against your flushed face. Freedom? No, it feels less like a celebration and more like stepping into a cage you'll never escape. The pig on the spit looks slightly tough, though your uncle swears it was butchered only yesterday. A fresh kill, he insists. A quirky little superstition drifts among the crowd that spilling ale during a wedding feast brings good luck. Whether that was ever truly believed or just an excuse for drunken chaos, historians still argue. But as you dodge sticky puddles of ale in the trampled grass, the answer feels obvious. Your mother pushes a wooden cup into your hands, the ale watered down to stretch the barrel further. You sip. The bitter taste clings to your tongue, doing nothing to soothe your nerves. Around you, the field heaves like a restless sea. Neighbors, cousins, even strangers from the next village, faces flushed and loud, eyes gleaming with curiosity. Across the throng, your father is already at it again, his voice sharp as he locks horns with the miller. No doubt the quarrel over the meadow lingers, that cursed strip of land still haunting even the feast. Somewhere in this noisy crowd is the groom, but you haven't seen him yet. And truthfully, you're not sure you want to. Supposedly, you are the radiant bride, the jewel of the day. Yet all you feel is a sheep being herded toward a market stall. Joke number 1, if this is their idea of a feast, you'd hate to witness their famine. A knot of women, aprons streaked with grease, descend upon you with cackles and teasing grins. They thrust a hunk of bread into your hands, rough and chewy, urging you to eat. "You'll need strength for tonight," one snickers, and the others shriek with laughter. Your face burns crimson. The villagers' obsession with your wedding night, their well-side whispers, their sly remarks, is suddenly alive in the open, as subtle as a cow wandering into a chapel. You chew, stiffly, pretending to smile, wishing the ground would swallow you whole. The air is thick with the smells of sweat, smoke, and roasting meat. The fiddle wails above the crowd until a drunken piper begins to duet, the sound clashing in your skull until your temples throb. Desperate for breath, you edge away from the press of bodies, slipping toward the shadow of a gnarled oak. Leaning against its rough bark, you finally find a moment to breathe. From here, the scene unfolds like a tapestry. Children chase a stray dog between the trestle tables. Men roar with laughter as they arm wrestle atop a barrel, mugs of ale sloshing dangerously close to spilling. Clusters of women trade gossip with the intensity of war councils, and at the center of it all, the feast rages on. You realize then, this was never just about you. Your wedding is an excuse, a stage set for the whole village to eat, drink, and momentarily forget the grinding weight of hunger, toil, and looming winter. For them, it's a celebration. For you, it feels like surrender.